I have got some ghost stories for you.
I come home from the gym and the chairs are all stacked upside down, like a very intricate stack.
There was a werewolf on our porch swing holding one of our kittens. The pen was all busted open and there is blood everywhere.
There's like somebody standing in the middle of the bed with their finger pushing straight up on the canopy, like a tent pole. But there's nothing there. And I laid in bed like a little kid. I pulled the covers up over my eyes.
This little boy told paranormal investigators, apparently my grandfather came back from the dead to harass a toddler.
So that is my ghost story.
Hi, and welcome to Haunted AF, the podcast of real ghost stories told by real people. We are your hosts. I'm Julie Fisk.
And I'm Rebecca Black.
So coming up in just a little bit, we have some UFO stories.
Yay!
Yeah, which we haven't had any of those, and the fact that we have two in one week is amazing. And okay, we start...
I heard a kitty cat.
Yeah, the cat's running around over there like meowing out of nowhere, freaking me out. Also, last week we were complaining because nobody sent in weird things that you've seen on the road stories. Y'all delivered. We have so many of those, and that's all coming out.
Yes, I love it. Don't forget, we are also posting on the Patreon. It is Patreon, right?
Yes,
okay,
Patreon.
Now I feel like I'm saying it wrong.
It's a real weird. It's
so sorry.
real weird word, Rebecca. I swear we did not smoke pot before this.
Really did not.
We did. We did.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, I don't even know where I'm at.
It's a real weird word, Rebecca.
Weird word. So yes, please check out our Patreon page. We are posting there all the time. So if you've binged everything that we've already done here on the Haunted AF podcast, guess what? There's new stuff over there.
Yeah.
It'll cost you $5 a month, but there's new stuff over there.
Yeah.
So
and in fact, we did the Patreon pregame, which means like we've already been taping for 20 minutes.
Which is why we're this way right now.
Yes, which is why
we had a nice warm up.
Completely
crazy.
Loopy.
Yeah, so check that out, patreon.com/hauntedaf.
And before we get into the stories, I just wanted to remind everybody that the new Foo Fighters movie, Studio 666, opens this weekend.
Did you watch it?
I did not. It's in
what happened? Why didn't you watch it?
It's sitting in my inbox. I just ran out of time.
Okay.
I meant to. Yeah, I'm supposed to be reviewing it right now, and I'm not because I didn't get to see it. Yeah. If you go to see Studio 666, this is very campy. It's just like old school, super gory, silly, scary movie starring the Foo Fighters. Exactly. It's supposed to be fun. It's like your type of scary movie.
It sounds like it is. I think I'd be interested. Plus, if it's starring Dave Grohl, I'm going to be real happy about that.
Yeah, the whole Foo Fighters.
Love it.
The premise is that, you know how when they recorded their last album or their last release, they said the house that they taped in was haunted. That was bullshit. They lied. That was all a setup for this movie. So that wasn't even.
Are you kidding me right now?
Dead serious.
I feel so duped. I'm so hurt, Dave Grohl.
I know.
How dare you?
I do feel a little validated though, because we tried so hard to get him on the podcast to tell these ghost stories, and he didn't respond to us
because he was lying.
Yeah, which
I can never trust you again, Dave Grohl.
Which I took it personally that he didn't respond. I was like, you know, Kelly Clarkson can write us back.
Exactly.
And you can't.
Right.
Yeah. So it turns out the place wasn't even haunted, but the whole premise of the movie is like, so they're taping in this haunted place. Dave Grohl gets like possessed and he starts killing the guys in the band so he can go solo.
No one goes sees this movie now because I'm mad at Dave. I'm mad at the Foo Fighters.
There's your review. Sorry, I didn't actually get to see it. I suck. All right. So, damn it, who sent this story in?
Blue Lady.
Well, it's about
I know.
Blue Lady.
When I wake up in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and realize the cat just died and I scream the top of my lungs, dead pet of the week.
I clearly just pressed the wrong button.
I'm not mad that you did because that was the surprise of a lifetime. And what a beautiful tribute to the dead pet of the week.
Isn't that the sweetest little
When
thing?
I wake up in the morning and I see a dead cat.
Take a deep breath. Realize my cat just died. Okay, wait. Okay, so that's coming up. That's coming up. Not yet. Here we go.
Hi, this is Cheryl. I'm going to tell you a story about my blue lady. I don't know why I call her my blue lady. She wasn't blue. I guess when you're 9 years old and you're going through a load of crap, you see an aura and you just say, she's blue. I don't believe she's an ancestor. I think she was tied to my parents' house. Family's house was built back in 1867, and it was built by a colonel who fought in the Civil War, and it was part of the land grant that was given to him by Abraham Lincoln. So
cool.
I think she decided to adopt me when I was 9 because I had been diagnosed with a kidney disease, which was rare. So I was very popular at the teaching hospital, KU Med Center in Kansas City. I spent a long time there. They didn't think I was going to make it. So my parents were very keyed up, and I know it was around Christmas time. I'd been sent to bed, and one of the rules they had was you need to leave your bedroom door open, and that hallway creeped me out. But I remember that night because I went to bed with my door open, and I know I'd been asleep for a little while because something, woke me up out of a deep sleep. But I remember waking up, looking down that hallway. There was a woman leaning against the wall, staring at me. Her hair was up on top of her head in a very messy bun. She was wearing a long, dark skirt and a high-neck blouse, and like she was wearing an apron over it. And then it occurred to me I could see through her. And that's when I started getting a little bit freaked out. But then I saw her eyes, and she had kind eyes, sad eyes, and they were staring right at me. I wasn't frightened. I was terrified of everything, but I wasn't frightened of her, and I don't know why. And I was about ready to say something, and she kind of lifted her hand up, like she was going, oh, it's okay, and I just felt this feeling of calm, like she had my back, that it was going to be okay. And I went back to sleep, and I'm still freaked out by that. I'm like, what the hell? I have seen her numerous times. She's hanging out at my parents' house still.
Evidently, this blue lady has been a part of her life ever since. And she said she has been like a warning to her.
Wow.
She's warned her away from men. And she said even like at one point, the blue lady kept her away from a serial killer. So we need to hear more about that story. But we've heard multiple times lately about this kind of protective female spirit that shows up.
We actually have a couple of UFO stories. Super excited about this. This first one comes from Aaron. Hi, Julie and Rebecca. I live in the White Rock Valley neighborhood and recently started binging your podcast. This morning, I came across a post on Nextdoor by someone in the L Streets area about unexplained lights in the sky. Several people chimed in to say they saw the same thing. So I wanted to share it with you. I'm loving the podcast and the rest of my family does too. Thanks for making my work days way more interesting. Take care, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron actually went on Nextdoor and was like, hey, contact these ladies with this podcast because they would love to hear this story. We haven't heard anything, of course. But I also sent a screenshot of this conversation to Jesse Hawila. Is that how you say his name? Local weatherman. And he's super saucy. I love him.
Like maybe it's a weather phenomenon or something?
They always have some sort of weather explanation for this shit. Just a quick reminder, if you ever see something on Nextdoor like that you're like, oh, the Haunted AF girls would like that, please put a little note in there and put our email address, hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com, because we would love to use those stories. This next story, I don't know who sent it in. Listen, lately, guys, y'all have been sending us stories everywhere, like Instagram and in chats on Twitter. So do me a favor. When you have a story, please send it to the email address, just because I'm losing this stuff. I have a hard enough time just keeping up with the stuff in the email.
We have too many extra, things.
Yeah, we have a lot going on. Yeah, because recently I got this story that was amazing, and I've been digging everywhere, and I can't find it.
Oh, no.
Yes, so please, guys, just send them to the email address. But the story says, hi, guys. So my best friend Noah and I started listening to your podcast, and oh, my word, we're hooked. We've been binging and listening to episode after episode for hours. Well, one summer night, Noah and I were outside with another friend on my porch. We're just chatting and laughing like usual until I look over to my left into the distance. I noticed what looked like a giant star on the horizon, but stars don't get that big, do they? My friends noticed it too, and both went completely silent as we stared. After staring at it for what felt like forever, the roundness of the star kind of came into question. I blinked my eyes thinking they were getting fuzzy, but the orb was flattening out like a disc.
Ooh.
It then slowly receded into the distance and then seemed to speed up and fade away very quickly. It was too large to be a drone. But why did it suddenly turn flat like that? I didn't believe in aliens at all until that. And I'm not saying I believe in them now. I just don't think they're impossible anymore. Anyways, love your podcast. You guys are amazing and remind me so much of me and my best friend from junior high. Oh, I know. Thank you. I wish so badly I could remember your name.
I love it when people are like, I just didn't think aliens would be possible. And I'm like, well, who's to say there isn't another Earth-like something out there and the aliens are just kind of like us?
They'd see us and be like, get the hell out of here. These people are awful.
Well, I mean, that's true. true.
Yeah.
I'd love to believe there's a better world out there. There probably isn't, though.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us in.
Yeah, no. This next one comes from Jamie, and she says, a few years ago, a karaoke friend of mine, Jan, sadly passed away from cancer. My friends and I visited her in the hospital a week before she died, and she was quite literally skin and bones.
Oh, Jan.
It was tough to see her in that condition. When we entered her room, she weakly pointed to all four of us and whispered our names. Then pointed to more people she apparently saw standing around us and mouthed what sounded like their names.
Oh, wow.
My friends and I looked at each other and at the empty space around us, and were thankful we all had one another as witnesses.
Wow.
Oh,
Poor Jan.
I know.
All right, because once simply wasn't enough.
When I wake up in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and realize the cat just died and I scream the top of my lungs, dead pet of the week.
That comes from Tiffany, and actually Tiffany has a story coming up later in the podcast.
Love it. So this next one comes from Tracy, actually. She says, thanks to Chris Jericho, I've been obsessed with your podcast.
Thank you. See, Chris Jericho called us back,
That's
but
right.
Dave Grohl couldn't.
So when my husband and I were in our early 20s and living in West Virginia, we were driving down a rural road late at night when out of nowhere, a white shape ran in front of our car. I was quiet for a second and then said to my husband, did you see that? He actually had. It looked like a white dog-like shape. In fact, at first I thought it was a dog, but it didn't cross the road. It just sort of floated quickly across and then disappeared on the left shoulder. It didn't go into the woods. It just wasn't there anymore. Both of us saw it and can't explain it, but ever since we've called it our ghost dog sighting.
Which is crazy because we just had a weird ghost dog thing that we posted on social media.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we had so many updates from last week's episode. We got to hit all of these. First of all, I wanted to talk about the USS Arizona.
Okay.
So we had the story about hearing screams on battlefields. And so I went online just to see if that was like a common thing to happen at the USS Arizona. What I did find was this story about a family who went to tour. So the USS Arizona, this memorial, it's the ship that sank during the Pearl Harbor attack. And so they have left the ship down there, and it has this bridge over it. Just for anybody who's not familiar, it's amazing. But this family was taking 1 million pictures, and when they got home, there was
I'm already getting like,
oh my gosh,
the shivers.
So this was the face that they saw in the water.
Is that Elvis?
See, to me, it looks like an old school Greek statue or something.
Also Frankenstein's bride.
Or Frankenstein.
Or Frankenstein.
I also wanted to talk about the bird video. So you're the one who brought it up last week, and that was just when it was starting to hit. The story they're going with, the explanation for it,
the experts, if you will.
Yes, is that the birds were probably being chased by a predator and did not realize that they were pointed downward as opposed to upward and just plowed. Because if you watch the video, you can tell a bunch of them hit the ground, but a bunch of them catch it and swoop back up again.
But what kind of like giant predator was after them? Because that was a lot of freaking birds to suddenly just take a nosedive.
Right. They'll do that. That's how they escape a predator. Like they'll have one bird that they're following. They might be the one who's like flying down into the pavement and not realizing they're just panicking.
Yeah.
And so at the front edge of it, all of those birds are going to hit the ground and die.
This is an amazing life lesson. Don't put the stupid people in the front.
Yes.
Right?
Don't let them steer.
So we actually also got this on the Bandage Man update from Lisa. I am originally from Northeast Ohio in a town called Warren. My father still lives there in an old farmhouse built in the 1800s. It sits on 30 acres of mostly wooded property. He cleared out an area behind the house just before the tree line where he keeps a couple of old sheds. One shed has a screen door on it that my father added. My dad loves animals and is always spreading birdseed in the yard, so there are all sorts of wild birds out there happily eating and having a good time.
How nice.
I know, that's so sweet. One morning, about 7 years ago, my dad made a cup of coffee and walked to the back door to look at the birds. He said he felt like he wasn't alone and looked over to the shed where he saw what looked like a man in bandages, or burlap. He has since called him Burlap Man. For the few seconds he saw him, the man seemed to be watching and enjoying the birds as well. Then he looked up and saw my dad. Burlap man stepped back into the shed, and my dad jumped and spilled his coffee. Dad walked over to the shed and hollered in, asking if the man was okay or needed help. After a few minutes, he walked in and looked around, but saw no one. Who could that have been? We don't know the history of the house, but our town has a river that runs through it called the, and I'm going to butcher this, Mahong.
I'd say Mahoning River.
Mahoning River. There are homes all along it that were used in the Underground Railroad. Many have basement passages that led down to the river, but have long since been bricked up and closed off. Dad's farmhouse is not one of those homes, but it is very close. So that's my story of a bandage man, a different kind of bandage man, but it was haunted AF. Love you guys, Lisa.
This story, I don't know why it really gets to me.
Yeah.
Bandage man out there looking at the birds, having a nice little morning. And I couldn't help but wonder, like, is it possible that there's some sort of passage underground? Like maybe he's not a ghost and maybe there was something in that shed where he could escape.
Ooh, I don't like that answer.
And the dad, just didn't, because maybe he's just some sort of somebody who's living in the woods in his
Just
burlap
kind of
and
off the grid vagabond type person.
Right. Lisa, though, felt like he was a ghost. She thought that maybe he was someone who had been murdered and buried in the woods in burlap.
If there was some sort of underground something, he's lived there for 30 years now. I feel like they would have found it.
It seems like it.
If that existed.
Yeah, especially since he cleared out that land.
Yeah.
And then the process of building the shed out there. If anybody has any experience with these kind of underground passageways, please let us know because I would love to hear more about that. Okay, so we also got a ton of stories.
So happy about this.
About things, weird shit y'all have seen on the side of the road. So this first one comes from Tiffany.
Okay, here is my weird stuff you see on the side of the highway story. Technically, it wasn't a highway because we live out in the middle of nowhere in Mississippi. But me and my husband were driving down the road one day, and we was coming up on these railroad tracks, and we seen this full-on ninja, like black outfit with just a slit for his eyes, a big old sword on his back. The weirdest part, though, is he was carrying a chihuahua. Like, I don't get it to this day. I don't know where he was from, what he was doing, but that's my story.
Ninja carrying a chihuahua.
Yeah, that's like a lesser known Marvel character.
I was going to say, I need to see that movie. What the actual hell? Oh, that's fantastic.
We also got this from Angela. So she sends us lots of stuff. She's our friend who works with exotic animals and insects. She has like the hissing cockroaches and lizards in jars. She's wonderful. So she posted something on her own social media just asking, tell me about the crazy stuff that you've seen on the road. And here are the things that people posted. A balloon hat that was twisted into the shape of a penis, a boat on the ground, on the side of I-75, not a dinghy, but a big fucker. I saw a girl being pulled over and about 15 state troopers walking towards her with their guns drawn. Somebody says a small herd of bison that was running towards me. Yikes. Multiple anal plugs on Cass Avenue next to someone's parked car.
Ew. Ew. Who wants to walk through that minefield?
Why do you have multiples? And why are you dumping them there?
Maybe it's a one-time use only. Do you think?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't own one, Rebecca.
I don't either. I'm just asking questions.
It seems like most of those things you could just wash it in the dishwasher and use it.
Okay, no, I literally was having that same thought. But then, do you want to wash in the dishwasher, like with your plates and stuff? And there's no amount of like sanitizer or dish soap to get that off. Sorry.
Somebody else saw a deer with a construction vest on, and then another person said
that's adorable.
They saw a dead raccoon with a get well soon balloon tied to it.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, that might be my favorite.
Oh, more than the loss of this dead raccoon. Also, we got this one from Amanda. You guys were asking for weird things while driving. Well, about 4 years ago, I was driving home in January in the middle of the day on a residential side street. This guy was driving towards me really slowly with his arm out the window. I thought it was kind of weird, so I stared at him. When I got closer, I realized that he had a parrot on his arm and was cruising slowly so the parrot could feel the wind in his feathers. Love the podcast. You guys always make me laugh. Amanda. Oh, that's funny. Are you still...
I believe I can fly.
Oh,
I believe I can touch the sky. It's like, come on, Polly, this is what it feels like. I'll do this for you every day, baby. I love you.
that is a really nice parrot owner.
That is the
Would you drive your parrot around so he could feel the wind in its feathers?
You bet your sweet ass I would.
You're so nice.
I would
not.
totally do that. Okay, and then finally we have this story from Sharon.
Hey, Rebecca and Julie. This is Sharon. I'm one of your yearly patrons.
Thank
anyway,
you.
sorry to make this ramble, but I love you guys so much. Anyway, I was just listening to season 3, episode 7. Literally just went, oh, crap. Side of the road. I'll make it as quick as I can. And I'm a rambler. Sorry. I'm a talkative McToggerton. Anyway, I was in Kentucky for my brother's wedding many years back, driving back from like going to an after party with some other people. You know, I mean, we probably should have been driving. We were pretty hammered. Looking at the side of the road, I'm in the passenger side. One of my brother's friends was driving, and I see these 2 men on the right of the road. They were marching. They were going along the side of the road. They were wearing uniforms. And you know where I'm going with this, I hope. And then all of a sudden, like, my stomach dropped, and I was like, holy shit, that's a motherfucking ghost. Sorry if you blew that out. But I was so excited. I told the guy who was driving, like, slow the car down. I want to see if they're real people. And he's like, no. He didn't want to slow down. But I told him to pull ahead. We drove by them slowly, and I looked back at them. No facial expressions on these 2 men wearing their gray uniforms. Of course, being the asshole I am. Hey! Yelling out the window and waving my arms out. And we got about 20 feet ahead. And I basically did like a tuck and roll very slowly out of the car and started to walk slowly back towards them. And literally I got about 5 feet away. And it was like somebody put their hand over a movie projector. They were gone. That was it. And I was like, oh my God. So of course, totally psyched. But yeah. So there's a side of the road story. And sorry I made that really long and probably awkward because I love you guys so much. Anyway, thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Sharon. Wait.
Why did she feel the need to jump out of the car?
She said her friend who was driving, known as Duckman. His name was Duckman was driving. Duckman saw it. He doesn't like talking about it. So he didn't want to stop. So that's why she.
So she decided to just of her own will, like
tuck
roll on
and
out.
roll.
Good Lord.
But thank you so much for that, Sharon, because we were able to tie this up in a weird stuff on the side of the road, also a ghost story.
Right. Who knew that we'd get a combo?
Yes.
That's
so
fantastic.
Thank
Didn't even
you.
think about that way.
Yes. Thank
Love
you
it.
so much for that.
So guys, remember, please send us all your... Good God. I will get through this. I can do this.
We're almost there.
I believe
Almost
I
there.
can fly. Remember, guys, please send us...
You know what it is, Rebecca? You know what's freaking you out?
What?
When we finish today, Rebecca's going to help me sage my haunted house.
Yeah.
And I think we're both a little freaked out about it.
Maybe. It could be.
You're just scared of saging my
What a
creepy
nice
ass.
surprise, by the way, that you had waiting for me. Hey, guess what? Sage my house.
Well, I didn't want you to cancel on me.
I would never. Okay. Remember to tell your friends, your family about our podcast, Haunted AF.
Sorry, I thought I turned this off.
You heard me.
Remember,
y'all, tell your friends, tell your family about the podcast, Haunted AF, hauntedaf.com. If you haven't already, please give us a good review on Apple Podcasts because people there are mean.
They hate us.
I don't even look at it anymore.
Yeah. We've gotten a handful of really nice ones lately, but
good.
We need more because it is strange how much people hate us on Apple Podcasts.
And normally I'm fine with that, but when you see it enough, you really start to like believe how bad you suck.
I'm a terrible person. Also, remember to find the companion blog. That's at hauntedaf.com. That's where we're going to post all the pictures and the links, and you can go see the picture of the face by the USS Arizona. You have to see that. And please keep sending all those scary stories, Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, glitch in the matrix, weird shit you saw on the side of the road, all of it. Send it to hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com so we can use it on season 7 of Haunted AF.